we are. Hola, Gerardo. How are you?
Very, very good, and excited to have this conversation with you, my dear Carmen, and continue learning uh, from you. Obviously, you have taught me a lot in this journey of building and growing CBD University with you about really the importance of bringing back hemp CBD into the mainstream, right? And
Right.
the benefits that it could bring to our health and also our economy, right? So, yeah, I'm glad that we have this opportunity to chat, and I wanted to ask you, out of the process of creating the course and your expansive knowledge on the subject. Where do you think we are at now in the US in terms of the acceptance of CBD and its benefits? Do you think it's something that's pretty permeated, or does more work still needs to be done there?
I think it's a great question, really, because there's not a clear black and white answer. I think that there's a lot more acceptance than there used to be because of, so many of the different states allowing the sale of hemp CBD products. And I think that has obviously, helped people. There's a lot of communities that have known and have been advocates for the potential benefits of hemp CBD in people's lives. But I think there's still just so much confusion because, the federal government doesn't necessarily always align with what the states are doing, and different counties aren't always in alignment with another county in the same state. There's just, I think, a quagmire of so much information, and then people have to disseminate it, and people have to learn it and read about it. And I think our leaders are also confused. I think some major corporations need education. I do think that the acceptance has increased, but I do also believe that there's just a lot of um, cleanup education that needs to be done. Just getting people on the same page is still going to take quite a while. Different people have different agendas.
Yes, and that's a very important point, right? The role that the education has in, as you say, getting everybody on the same page, clearing up the panorama for, the acceptance of the facts, right? And the facts simply state that this is something that can be very beneficial towards our health, that is very low risk, and that it has obviously been used for centuries, if not millennials, and I think it's critical that more people, legislators, big CEOs, and everybody just in the public in general have the opportunity to learn more about this, and that's where I think the Truths About Hemp CBD course is such a unique opportunity to learn more about this. So my question here is, what about Latin America? I sense and I see that there is a lot of excitement, right? At least in Mexico, regarding the impact, the potential positive impact that the CBD hemp products can have in the market and for our health. And do you think that there is greater acceptance here, greater excitement, or how would you rate the situation?
I think I'd have to defer to you more than anything. But what I sensed, what I've been there is there's this almost this like aha moments, that I think is what's creating part of the excitement in Latin America and certainly in Mexico is the people that I've spoken to when we've talked about or when I've shared some, or they've asked me a question and I've responded with what I know, with what I'm certain of, that there's this moment of, I had no idea. Why didn't we know this? Why weren't we taught this? How did we get so far away from what the truth is? And so I think that is part of the curiosity, but also the wanting to learn about it. Because I think so many people are looking for alternative solutions to some of their day-to-day issues. And if we've got it right here at our fingertips, and we've got professionals, it's certainly not just me, there are a lot of people who have a lot of knowledge about the potential uses and the benefits of hemp CBD. And I think it's getting those voices amplified, which is what we're doing on CBD University, giving other people a chance, other experts a chance to present their viewpoints. And there are going to be various different viewpoints. That's the beauty of coming to a place where it's curated and it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's vetted for you so that you can trust the sources.
Well, I'm very glad that you mentioned this, and yes, there is a very exciting project in the building, right, phase of the business side of cannabis, right, and we'll be able to share a little bit more of this later on, but certainly excited to be working with you and another expert group of experts on the building a cannabis MBA program. Sorry for that.
That's okay.
So
Yeah.
my other question, Carmen, would be, what about the in the course, which is again I want to remind everyone it's in English and in Spanish, right? One of the most important points that I think you touch on is the myths about hemp CBD, right? Because I think there's so many myths and misconceptions on this topic, right? So what do you think are the greatest myths stopping you know uh, the the growth and the potential of hemp CBD right now?
I think for me, what I've seen, the biggest myth, the biggest misconception is that so many people still think that hemp CBD is going to get them high or it's going to cause a mind altering, experience. And that's simply not true for most people, the majority of people. It is, we have to take into consideration that hemp CBD does contain a minute amount of THC, but it's not enough to really cause a mind altering experience. And I think you and I may have talked about this before. I do think that sometimes people confuse feeling well after taking hemp CBD. They feel less affected by their pain or their sleeplessness. And so there is what I call, it's like a euphoric feeling when you're no longer in pain. When you wake up one morning and you can walk, your hip isn't hurting you, or your knee doesn't hurt you, or your elbow no longer hurts you. I think that feeling of, oh my gosh, I feel so good, maybe that is something that people might confuse as a high. I don't, I'm guessing here. Maybe that is a little bit of a confusing moment because some people just didn't know how good they're supposed to feel. That's going to give you, a boost. But I think that's just a big misconception when you look at the fact that cannabis levels of THC are much higher. So and THC will cause a mind altering effect. So I think there's just that's the biggest myth. Everyone that asks me about it, that, is just, they're curious, but they've heard all these different things. And then when I explain to them, for example, that the hemp plant has over 25,000 uses, and the cannabis plant primarily has 2 uses, for recreational use or medicinal use. That's one major difference in the 2 plants. It's 2 different plants with 2 very different levels of THC. So that would be the number one myth, I think, that people should really begin to explore for themselves. Hemp, generally speaking, in the majority of people, does not cause any mind-altering effects.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And another very very interesting aspect that you cover in the Truths About Hemp CBD course is the history, right? About this unique journey that hemp CBD has had across cultures in the world, and its importance that it has had in different time periods, right? And I'm a big believer of how knowing and studying our past can really help us predict the future, right? So my question is, what would your prediction be in terms of where do you see the state of things in terms of hemp CBD being in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think there is a huge potential for education on this subject to grow, for universities to grow, for the general universal scholastic world to realize that perhaps there is something here that is worth including in their normal curriculums, right? There's a whole generation coming up that is looking for this type of information. They're literally seeking it every day, live streaming, searching. They want answers. They want to be able to feel better and live their lives free from prescription traditional medications. And it's something that I think is worth taking a look at, because that is the future. So we need to cater to what they're searching for, in my opinion.
Well, thank you so much, Carmen. It's been, as always, a pleasure to speak with you, to learn from you, and I can't wait for our next session, well, where we will continue to dive deeper into these fascinating topics, perhaps bring a, a greater update about the cannabis MBA course, and yes, just keep everyone updated about what we're doing at CBD University. So
Yes,
thank
there's
you
lots
again.
going on. Thank you. And thank you, Mauricio. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, everyone. And make sure, if you are watching this on the replay, that you also connect with us at mycbduniversity.com. That's where you'll find us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Adios.